On a little bit of a roll today. Granted, this laptop isn't as good a quality as the other one with the videos, but I don't want to have a backlog about things that I'd like to talk about and just build up. So I'd rather talk about them whilst I have this. My other laptop just has space issues at the moment. The report I'm going to read here again from the Times newspaper, the 4th of September, so yesterday. It has some overlap with the last one, the one on antisocial behaviour, because it's a question of how police resources are used. So I'll just read out the report, and then, as always, comment on it. This report is by Matt Biffin, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly, the Home Affairs editor. Free speech fears police log in more hate incidents. Police are recording more non-criminal hate incidents, despite guidance introduced last year ordering officers to reduce the practice to protect free speech. Before I continue, I'll just say this is also about the Labour Party's reputation on this subject. Figures from 30 of the 43 police forces in England and Wales show that 11,690 non-crime hate incidents were recorded in the year to June, up 0.4% compared with 11,642 the previous year. The data disclosed in response to freedom of information requests by the Free Speech Union revealed significant increases in the number of incidents recorded by some police forces, including a rise of 140% by Staffordshire Police, a 65% increase by North Yorkshire Police, a 63% increase by Gwent Police, and a 35% increase by Suffolk Constabulary. So does North Yorkshire, Staffordshire, Gwent, and Suffolk not have actual crimes to be dealing with? I'm sure they do. The rise comes despite a code of practice coming into effect in June last year. Bear in mind that was still a Conservative government that introduced a threshold for the police to record personal information of someone for hate incidents that do not constitute a crime. Under the change, officers are allowed to record a non-crime hate incident (NCHI) only if it is clearly motivated by intentional hostility and where there is a real risk of escalation causing significant harm or a criminal offence. Even those guidelines are problematic, and I'll come back to why I think that is. The threshold was introduced by Suella Braverman, the Home Secretary at the time, after concerns were raised over a perceived threat that hate crime laws pose to freedom of expression. Yvette Cooper, the Home Secretary, that's the new Home Secretary, is planning to reverse the changes and restore requirements for police officers to record NCHIs. There have been concerns that the guidance was preventing the police from monitoring and identifying tensions and threats to Jewish and Muslim communities. There has been a surge in anti-Semitic and Islamophobic incidents after the Hamas attack on Israel on October the 7th last year. Anti-Semitic incidents have doubled and Islamophobic abuse has tripled since the attack. A Home Office source said Cooper would work with the College of Policing to develop new guidance and an appropriate threshold for reporting NCHIs. The source said the need to balance the guidance against the right to freedom of expression would form part of the College of Policing's task. A Home Office source said it is vital that the police can capture data relating to non-crime hate incidents where it is proportionate and necessary to do so in order to help prevent serious crimes. Toby Young, founder of the Free Speech Union, questioned whether recording more non-criminal hate incidents would tackle anti-Semitism. He added people are being punished. NCHIs can show up on enhanced criminal record checks and stop you getting a job for committing non-crimes. If the Labour government wants people to be punished for being anti-Semitic or Islamophobic, it should bring forward a bill that could be debated in Parliament. Trying to go about this in an extrajudicial way is underhand and undemocratic. It is as if this government really hates free speech but doesn't want to legislate against it. And I think he has a point. Um, I think the Labour government needs to do a lot more to show that it isn't anti-free speech. I think this is one of their big Achilles heels, because this has long been an allegation against Labour that there's sort of this authoritarian bureaucracy that runs the Labour Party. And I do think that overall the Tories have a better record in this. Not perfect, but better. Now, I mentioned even what Braverman was proposing wasn't ideal because it said only if it is clearly motivated by intentional hostility. Well, intentional hostility, that could mean you strongly dislike something. For me, there should be a common sense issue here. If someone is making clear threats, or if they're inciting violence, for example, in the recent riots, that would clearly be a ground for uh, criminal liability because it is incitement. But simply saying that you dislike an ideology, for example, or even a religion, saying you dislike Islam, for instance, I don't think that should be conflated with spreading hatred, for example, against Muslims. Now, I know that there may be some of this as politics at play because Labour has had to prove that it is taking anti Semitism seriously, so there may be some of that at play. And there's a basis for that because under Jeremy Corbyn, the Labour Party clearly had an anti Semitic problem. But I don't think that should extend to then the Home Secretary wanting to galvanise the police even more to spend time on this. You know, when Labour says they're serious about tackling violent crime, yet they're simultaneously saying we want the police to be even more robust in, in going for non-crime hate incidents. I mean, to me, this is a waste of resources. And, you know, this will embolden, frankly, police forces that want to make the right wrong priorities. I mean, you're going to have a situation where people get knocks on the door um, because they've used the wrong pronoun online, and a trans person may have complained about that. But if it is not a criminal offence, I mean, I think it would be deeply alarming if it was made a criminal offence. But if it's not a criminal offence, police really have no business doing that. Now, there may be situations where you have particular tensions in a community. Say, for example, a few years ago in Leicester between the Muslim and Hindu community, and there was actually violence over that. Or where you have a big rise in, say, Islamist or far right activity, and then you see a trajectory online that may actually lead to violence. It may be that crimes aren't actually being committed, but you see a trajectory online of growing tensions. I think there's some practicality in the police monitoring that. But there's a difference between monitoring that and actually harassing people over basically what amounts to opinions. I think that is wrong, and actually, ironically, it could increase tensions if the police are seen to be making the wrong priorities. So I would say to Yvette Cooper, do you believe in free speech or not? I think Labour needs to do a lot more to say unequivocally we will defend free speech and there will be legal scope here for defending free speech. I think they risk falling into the stereotype that the Labour Party basically wants to trample free speech under the guise of protecting minorities. That's wrong. And Cooper and Starmer need to prove that this is not what they're about. I absolutely support taking action against actual hate crimes. That is, people being abused, violently attacked, threatened, made to feel unsafe because of who they are, if they're Jewish or they're Muslim, um, or otherwise. But I don't think you can extend that to saying that, you know, someone has a strongly worded difference of opinion. Um, that really will lead down a slippery slope. And I think Labour has more of a tendency to go this way than the Conservatives would. I voted Labour in the general election. I don't regret that because I wasn't going to vote Tory. This is one of the concerns I have about the Labour Party. I mean, are they going to introduce legislation? As Toby Young says, this is something that can be debated in Parliament because he probably knows that most MPs, knowing that their constituents will be against attempts to shut down free speech, will defeat the bill. So, what's Labour doing here? Are they really trying to support the police? I mean, what are the police doing? It's not just the government. The police themselves have to answer this question. You know, they cannot say that their resources are stretched if they're making the wrong priorities. I mean, if you have someone who's burgled and the police turn up 5 hours later and they say, oh, sorry, our resources are stretched, they've spent that time, you know, documenting non-crime hate incidents. I just think it's a waste of resources unless there is clear evidence of mounting tensions in a particular community. But more broadly, I mean, the clue is in the name, a non-crime hate incident. It's not a crime. The police really have no business getting involved. I mean, if something is a verifiable offence, then yes, the police are duty bound to act on it. But even there should be very, very strong debate on what does constitute a criminal offence. It would be a very sinister thing if people start to get arrested or lose their job. For example, this thing about enhanced information. Someone may not be arrested, but they may find that job opportunities are limited as they've criticised Islamic extremism, for example. Um, so the law needs to be very, very clearly defined. And if something is not illegal, I think there should be minimal police involvement, with the possible exception of monitoring a rise in tensions. Outside of that, I don't think the police should have any business monitoring this stuff. And I think Yvette Cooper has to unequivocally say that she's not against free speech. If she fails to do that, then Labour can't complain when they're called authoritarian.